Trump's few European allies reportedly celebrated Trump's return. However, with Germany's government just dissolved and a general election ahead, leaders also face internal challenges. This summit will focus on Ukraine, transatlantic ties, and economic security. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi Magnish. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
Different strokes for different folks. You would think it's normal. We've been told that they work day in Trinidad and Tobago and in elsewhere, in many parts of the world, 8 hours a day, 8 to 4, 9 to 5, as it may be. But there are people whose normal work day is 12 hours, including in Trinidad and Tobago, people known as the Estate Police Organization, security guards and people like that. A day's work is 12 hours. It's just normal like that. There's no difference of pay after you cross the first 8 hours. Why is that the case? And what is being done about it? What should be done about it? Derek Richardson is the head of the organization known as the Estate Police Association. It's a top tier item in the matters that he has to deal with and how he's been prosecuting, he and his team prosecuting or pursuing trying to fix this and make it equalized to people in Trinidad and Tobago. There's a normal work day, there's something that is standard, 8 hours. Mr. Richardson is with us on this edition of the program. Thanks for staying with us, our viewers. That's going to be it for the next, for the duration of the program, this edition. Mr. Richardson, good to have you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you to the public.
Hello?
Yes. Thank you for having me in. Are you hearing?
Yes, well, I'm hearing you now. So, well, good to have you on. Let's talk a little bit about the environment, because my understanding is that it is not just about the hours that people work in these arena, but in a lot of cases the work arrangements. I was talking to someone I know in Arima some weeks ago about it, working for one of these private security agencies, and he said that when you do something or when you're accused of some kind of lack of performance or whatever it might be in the company, and they find you culpable in one way or the other, they take a fine out of your pay. So whatever the rate of pay is, the rate per hour is, which is as by itself an issue that some people in some arrangements talk about and lament. So they dip down in that, the employer, to take action against a worker for whatever it is that they've been accused of. Let's start to talk about the reason as to why your understanding is that a normal work day for people in these areas of occupation must be 8 hours.
Okay. All right. And this is thank you for having us on this program, because there's a misconception, right, that has been cleared up in law. Previously, there was a judgment really that came out of the special tribunal, in which Mr. Lawrence Acho indicated that security officers, those who do not hold a precept, right, are subject to 12 hours. Their workday is 12 hours before overtime can be applied. Okay, that is despite the fact that the minimum wage sectoral order says differently. Okay, in the minimum wage sectoral order, the issue of overtime is clearly under savings and exceptions. So while the workday, they may be working officers 12 hours, the law for security officers dictates that they be paid overtime after 8 hours. That was contained in a judgment, in two judgments, in fact, judgment in 2015 out of Tobago, I think it was Militia, and then there was another judgment in 2023, with 2022, in fact, with OWTU versus Hella Security. So at present, what you have is that still a holdover from when Mr. Achong would have delivered that judgment in 2016, right? So at present, all security officers are by law entitled to overtime after 8 hours would have occurred. And I want to repeat that. All security officers, meaning those without a precept, by an order of the court, are entitled to overtime after 8 hours would have passed. But the companies are simply not paying it. What is happening is that they are saying, if you make a claim, and basically if you make a claim, then they will have to pay it. But the officers are mindful that if they do make the claim, that they will be victimized.
And they run the risk of losing the job in the final analysis.
Risk of losing the job. Yes.
Well, explain a little bit about the difference between people who have precepts or people who are precepted and those who are not. How is that?
Okay, the precept is your quote-unquote the higher classification, where you have persons who have been so authorized by the Commissioner of Police to have all powers, rights, immunities, and duties of a police officer below the rank of corporal. So you will find that those persons who work in the private security industry and in the state industry, meaning those officers at WASA, TNTEC, Port Authority, Airport Authority, and the likes, right, have that power under law to effect an arrest, take anybody to the magistrate court, and all the powers that a police officer below the rank of corporal has is invested in that particular person, the estate police officer, which is distinct from the security officer, who does not have that power in law, except to arrest only under the citizen's arrest, which is called a common law arrest, which is what every citizen in Trinidad and Tobago has.
Yeah, and what makes some people eligible for being precepted and others not? In a lot of cases, sometimes these are retired officers, or what it is they do.
Anyone over the age of 18 can be precepted. The company will have to make send them to train them, or send them to the police barracks, right, to do the examination. There's an examination that is a syllabus and an examination, and after that, it's up to the company to send the request out to make you an SC constable, and then you will have to go into the nearest to the designated station, and that you will be issued an oath of office as an estate constable, and then you will give them a badge or a precept, right, which will designate you now as an estate constable. So you can present that badge, that precept, in any court of law to identify yourself as duly as an estate constable to anyone as an estate constable, and have all powers, rights, and immunities of that of a police officer below the rank of corporal.
Yeah. So somebody without that I would say privilege or that mark of distinction cannot effect an arrest if they see something is going. Somebody's breaking in somewhere and they are on duty.
They can arrest under common law, which is the same power that any citizen
as a citizen's arrest. You can make a citizen's arrest.
Yes, but it has to be something within their purview that they would have seen. Nobody can report it to you, and you go and investigate it, and end up make the arrest.
Yeah. Mr. Achong has a reputation as somebody who is quite versed in matters of industrial relations, work arrangements, and so on. So why would he be? How do you describe then is it an insistence on this question about who gets to be precepted and not, and who gets to get 8 hours as a shift, and others who have to be remain saddled with 12 hours? Was he speaking wrongly?
He was speaking quite out of wrongly, quite out of turn. As a matter of fact, there was absolutely no need for him to go to the security officer. Just to explain, the matter that was before Mr. Achong
We're
was
talking in the industrial
chief
court. For those who don't know, we're talking about in the industrial court where he has been
in
since
the special tribunal, yes.
Yes.
Right? The matter that before him was a matter involving G4 security and the EPA, right? Which concerned estate constables. The estate constables go before the special tribunal, right? Which Mr. Achong chairs. The security officer does not appear before Mr. Achong. That goes into the general services section of the industrial court, which is the industrial court itself. But Mr. Achong would have thought it fit in his wisdom, or whatever, if you want, quote unquote wisdom, to make a statement in a matter that is not before him, in a classification of workers that does not appear before him, and say that they are not entitled to overtime after 8 hours. So he was speaking quite out of tune, quite judicially incorrect or unlawful, and we've asked the question, what prompted him? What prompted Mr. Achong to make such a determination when this matter is, those workers, the security officers, do not come before him, do not come to the special tribunal. He doesn't have any jurisdiction to pronounce in the special tribunal on security officers, yet he did. And after that, the Ministry of Labor and everybody went outside there and indicated that the security industry is a 12-hour industry and overtime will be paid after 12 hours.
And just
that has now been adjusted.
Yeah. And just to mark the spot, he is a former Minister of Labor in a former administration in Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, we have had a certain misfortunes in those areas, and Mr. Achong clearly is one of those.
So is that a matter that is sort of under, well, more than consideration? Is that a matter that is being, at least your organization has sought to have it addressed and have it debated and sorted out once and for all? Or?
The issue concerning the security was already been dealt with by judgment before Mr. Achong made it, and subsequent judgments, right? That the security was entitled to 8 hours by before, right? For any 12-hour workday, and after that, time and double time and triple time.
Yeah.
Right? The issue concerning the police officers, what we have to do, because the EPA at the time didn't judicially review it. So we basically have to make a fresh dispute via a breakdown in negotiations to have the same person now adjudicate on whether or not we, the estate police, are subject to the minimum wages order. Now, what our clearly here, we do not fall under the minimum wages order if you look at the security officer. However, we thought that Mr. Achong failed to accept that the interpretation of a worker as contained in the minimum wages order is totally different to the worker in the Industrial Relations Act. So he used what was in the Industrial Relations Act to superimpose it on the judgment on the estate constable is not a worker under the minimum wages order. All the minimum wages order said anybody who works for a wage. So the question is, if you are working for minimum wage, which most security officers do work for minimum wages, why aren't you now given the benefit of the provisions of the minimum wage when you are just in fact working for a wage?
Yeah,
so we have to go back to court to get that interpreted.
Help us out here. Is the minimum wage, there's one wage across the board in terms of the work market and the labor market and the workforce in Trinidad and Tobago, or are there minimum wages, say in the energy industry as opposed to in the banking or in other aspects of the economy, or is it?
No, there's one minimum wage, but a definition of there are certain classification of workers that will appear in the minimum wages order, right? So there's one minimum wage in this country. Anybody who works over, whose salary is over time and 1/2 of the minimum wage is not covered by the minimum wage. So if your salary is, let's say right now the minimum wage is $20.50, it's about 32 something. If your salary, if your hourly rate is over $33, then you would not be subject to the minimum wages order.
Yeah.
The active.
And what are some of the other issues that make this area of the workforce as challenging as it is?
The biggest problem I think that the security industry faces is victimization and fear. That there are provisions that, especially through the association, that you can't channel. We have spoken about people going into people's salary with these fines. We have dealt with that in particular places because the Truck Act, right? There's an act called the Truck Act. Can't call the chapter and free right now, but the Truck Act basically says that you cannot go into anybody's salary except to take out statutory deductions or any agreed deductions. To say, per se, like if you're taking out union dues or a bank or bank deduction, right? But you just cannot go into someone's salary. Your salary is your property, so you just cannot go into someone's salary without that. You just take out a fine. And what they do, they develop these books, these handbooks, and they put these fines inside, and sometimes without due process, they give you a sheet, tell you it's your charge sheet, your offense sheet, and then you tell you to sign it, and then they go into your salary without due process and take it out from you for any matter that they deem to be an offense.
And how are these things challenged?
You have to come through a union. You have to come through a union if you're a security officer, or if you're an estate police officer, you come through the Estate Police Association. When we have to have a dispute, we have to have a grievance in the first place. So the person has to come to us and say, this is what happened to me, and provide us with the proper information. Once we get that, we now will write to the company and say we have a member who is aggrieved, and we will meet with the company to try and trash out what has happened. If there is no resolution with the employer, then we can report it to the Ministry of Labor. At the Ministry of Labor, parties can meet in conciliation where the ministry acts as an arbiter, an advisor, right? And if there is no resolution at the ministry, then of course we could go to the special tribunal. If you're a state constable, and if you're a union post, if you're a unionized security officer, you will go to the industrial court itself.
And are there matters before the industrial court now concerning those things, or what has been the issue? How pervasive it might be across the system of work involving security officers, security guards?
It is very pervasive. The problem is that the officers are very intimidated into bringing the matter to the attention of a union, right? But whenever they come, they are always dealt with in favor of the
employer,
the employee, employee.
Okay.
Because they okay. So let's say you're making a claim for overtime, and we have had the instance where officer came to us and said that she was short paid for a number of hours, and we took the matter and we asked her for the documentation. She provided us with the documentation. We did our calculations, and we were able to resolve it where she was really short paid for to the tune of about $33,000. Right?
Wow.
So the thing is that we have to work with evidence. We have to work with somebody coming and say, first speaking, I've been aggrieved, something has happened, and we can take the matter. The fact that there is a judgment with the OWT, which meant that those two officers who worked at Hella, would have complained to the union, which would be the OWTU, and the OWTU was able to secure a judgment in their favor to ensure that they got their all the overtime, where they would have worked 12 hours and beyond. They would have gotten payment for those hours.
Well, every time we speak, and as we speak more often, and I want to keep this up, that one gets the sense that this is an area in the Trinidad and Tobago economy that doesn't get as much attention as perhaps it should, because we're talking about a group of people, a class of people in the country who are essentially being treated as workers, as second-class and third-class citizens. To what extent that is not too flowery language, and to what extent that is a reality?
Well, I would say it's really slavery, right? It's more than the slavery. What we see outside is that these companies are not fearful of exhibiting their power, right? The power of the master of the plantation upon their slaves. So the same way the slave master ruled by decree and by fear, right? That is exactly what they're doing. The only reason that they are paying them is because it is unlawful to pay them. But having paid them, they will find all manner of reasons to go into your salary to reduce the little pittance that you will have been getting. So it is not of far-fetched for my descriptive to say that the private security industry is a very is a slave, like it is akin to slavery more than this slavery, right? And if people are fearful, if that state of fearful, right? Then I think that I am well within my right to say that this industry, bar NFU, is a very abusive and slave-like industry.
And the on the other side of that is the reality that in a lot of cases, these are people, workers who are sort of always operating with the sense of the breach security, and in a lot of cases to defend against that, their lives are put at risk, and in some cases, people have lost their lives doing their job simply because they're trying to stop somebody from doing something that they shouldn't do, such as, you know, the heists that take place from time to time with people, robberies and so on, and people, yeah.
And here I want to go and say that the laws of Trinidad and Tobago are very abusive and not in the interest of security of the states and the whole private security industry as a whole, right? And the judgments coming out of the special tribunal also supports that. You would know that we would have raised issues in this country concerning the safety and well-being of the private security officers in relation to the bulletproof vest, provision of updated equipment, provision of updated firearms, proper equipment, proper vehicles for them to carry to do cash in transit, you know. And we have remained with a stone wall by the state. When we would have approached the government and said, listen, the issue of vest, which is your PPE for those persons carrying firearms, and especially those who do the high-risk firearm duties such as the CIT, right? And we asked them to listen, to look at reducing or eliminating the costs of bringing bulletproof vests into this country so that those smaller private security companies can actually afford to purchase for them. We met with absolutely nothing, no result from that. But however, we find that the politicians have access to no taxes for their vehicles, their multi-million-dollar vehicles that they bring into this country. But the working class, the man on the street who is protecting the money of those businessmen who actually insure the money in the first place, when they are killed, they have absolutely no protection. We have written to the Bureau of Standards, right, because we realized nobody was doing it. We wrote to the Bureau of Standards and said, listen, we have an issue concerning bulletproof vests in this country, where there is no standard, no international standard for the importation of bulletproof vests into this country. So at present, anybody could buy a bulletproof vest anywhere outside, whether or not it's up to standard or not, produce a false ballistic report and say that bulletproof vest is for sale, right? And we've said that there is a rating agency that will actually list those bulletproof vests that have been gone through the rigors of the testing. And those are the vests, that is what is supposed to be. We must develop a national standard for the importation of bulletproof vests. And that was as a stakeholder, the invitation was sent out to the police service, the army, all the other, even the employers, right? And to date, the only agency that has not responded to the Bureau of Standards is the Ministry of National Security, which is an extremely big stakeholder in this entire thing. So if you have the Ministry of National Security, who is not responding to the Bureau of Standards so that we can establish standards in this country for the importation of bulletproof vests, what does that say? What does that really say?
And so to what extent you all are pointing this out and trying to make an issue of it with the Ministry of National Security? Is that on the table? Is that on the cards?
Yeah, we've written to them. We met with the Minister of National Security quite a while ago, right? We did what we had to do. The Bureau of Standards, right? When I sent the invitation to the minister, right? We mentioned it to the Minister of Labour, and he said he will liaise with his colleague, right? To date, when we check with the Bureau of Standards, nothing as yet. Now, remember, every day delayed in doing an exercise such as this has the potential for more and more officers to be killed outside there with these vests. We meet vests, Andy, in companies that have been expired because those vests carry an expiry date.
They've outlived their usefulness.
Yeah, 10 years, 15 years, 10 and 15 years. We've had the experience where we had to, when we were informed that these vests were expired, and we approached the employer and we went and tested the vest and we actually shot the vest. The bullet went straight through and through, no resistance. It was never even wearing a normal shirt.
All right, Mr. Richardson, in a lot of cases, these things go deep and they go wide, and we just beginning to, or at least to refresh the discussion about it. But as you see, it's an area of interest that I continue to have. Our time is up for this edition of the program, but we will continue to talk about this in the effort to getting some kind of a better, a more even playing field for the people who work in this part of the labor force.
And I truly appreciate the opportunity to bring to the attention of the public what is happening in private security industry. And anytime you call upon me to meet with you, to bring those issues, surely I'll make myself available. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Derek Richardson, head of the Estate Police Association in Trinidad and Tobago. That will do it for us for this edition of the program. I want to thank you for watching. This has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. Stay with us here on WESN. See you next time.
WESN.
This holiday season, bring the magic of Christmas home with WESN's Joy of Christmas. Relive timeless classics, from the laughter to the heartwarming moments that make the season unforgettable.
Hey, like the lamp, not the rat, like the lamp, not the rat!
Santa's coming to town! Oh my God!
Oh, baby.
Experience the joy of WESN special productions, crafted to bring you new stories and cherished memories. This year, let WESN bring the joy of Christmas to your home.
Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown!
Catch the spirit, catch
match the joy.
Anchors away. May the force be with you.
Only on WESN, your content capital.